Good day, wonderful people. Figured I'd just start making some tutorial videos after the last AnyMaker video. Now I'm jumping back over to Stormworks just because I haven't really got all into AnyMaker yet. But Stormworks got a new update today, and these are now a thing. Hydrogen fuel cells. They're very simplistic creatures, if you will. They produce electricity in response to receiving hydrogen and oxygen, both of which, from what I understand, can be spawned in for free in these tanks here in survival mode, which is kind of broken. But when you compare these to something like a large battery, in terms of like electricity output, these are definitely very competitive for the cost in which it takes to build them. Let's look at that. So a basic hydrogen fuel cell construction here. Let me save this real quick. Save over the old version of this vehicle. Basic construction is going to be 2 tanks, one filled with oxygen, one filled with hydrogen, and that's basically it. And the hydrogen fuel cell is what it's called now. The byproduct is fresh water, which from early preliminary testing, I found that you can kind of re-harvest this and run electrolysis on it and backfeed it, but you can't make infinite power with these. But if we grab some tanks here, and the gas tanks here are kind of like a really dense energy storage for what they are. They hold like a lot of gas in them to create this byproduct of water and electricity. Let's grab a quick port. There you go. This is all you need, really, just to get it started, and a battery, of course, because I've noticed these things do not produce electricity unless if they're hooked up to some sort of electric capacity storage. So, like a battery here would do just fine. We'll spawn it in dead. And you can run valves to this, and I'll show that here in a minute to like regulate how much it's consuming. But you see it charges relatively quickly on a small battery. Even the medium batteries can charge up pretty quickly. I haven't gotten it down to an exact science of how much it produces, but you have to eat the hydrogen, eating the oxygen, and producing the byproduct. Water comes out here. I just kind of vent to atmosphere in a simple setup like this, but you can get a lot more intricate with it. Well, I say a lot more intricate with it. This is very simplistic still. It's just doubling up the setup for a little bit more power production, which isn't really super necessary for what this vehicle is right now, but for the other stuff I want to add, I'm running that second one there. And then I've got valves being controlled by a simple function block here. It reads the battery output through this very simplistic function to output a positive number to the valves, depending on how depleted the battery is. That way these things will kick in dynamically as I need more power. That greatly improves the runtime of how long you can drive this whole apparatus. So we'll get a couple dials here, just to kind of showcase this a little bit more. I guess you don't really need power hooked up to these, but I will just for this premise. So there's the battery charge. That's one of the values that I'm going to pull, and then the other value I'm going to pull is tank pressure, because that gives relative like output of how much hydrogen or oxygen is left in the tank, giving me a rough runtime estimation, if you will. Tanks go up to 65, down to 0, sorry, 60. And then this is 0 to 1. Label these accordingly. Okay. So if I come over here really quickly, you'll notice tank pressure shouldn't be draining. Why is it draining? I guess there is some sort of load on the wheels of some variety. Something's pulling power. Probably the valves themselves. But you'll see as like electricity runs out, it's starting to dynamically open these valves in response to produce more electricity. Lovely. Thanks, Stormworks. But you can drive around. Um, it's very quiet, anyways. It doesn't really make much noise other than the motor noise. So, um, but no, it drives around. You can see tank pressure is going down because we are consuming some of that gas from both sides of the tank, and you can see in response it is keeping the battery at a decently steady charge. And you can play around with your math function that regulates the flow to these tanks um, to give you some decent control over it. But you can see it gives you quite a bit of runtime here, and for these tanks again being relatively inexpensive to spawn in comparison to like large batteries for driving electrical systems, this is definitely a interesting thing to look at for a early game vehicle, I would think. Um, or of course the main reason why they added it in for space station applications, but I haven't really looked into the space DLC all that much personally. Definitely not really my thing per se. Um, but the concept is here and it does work and it's very effective for, like I said, early game stuff. I think for your career um, standard career vehicles. Um, I think this would be interesting to be used in combination with like redundant systems on larger vehicles. But yeah, overall, I think it's a great utility that they've added. I do like to see them making use of the gases a little bit more. I would like to see hydrogen fueling stations. That would be nice. And then a way to like maybe pull the oxygen out of the air, um, or just be able to use air in these things. Because I like real life hydrogen fuel cells just take in oxygen from the atmosphere. It doesn't need to be separated out. Um, and that would be really nice if they did that. But I get why. I get why it's implemented the way that it is. I look forward to more improvements with this, possibly with maybe some rebalancing or whatever for, um, like I said, that taking in oxygen from the atmosphere without needing an oxygen tank. Um, yeah, I think that's going to conclude what all I have to say here for both a guide on how to use these new parts and overview of it. Anyways, I'm going to end this video here. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.